Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's monthly GLS 363 Leadership webinar. We're really excited to have such a big turnout today. We're going to discuss the topic leading in and through a time of crisis such as this one. I think more than ever before, we need strong and courageous leaders. So thank you for investing this time to make yourself a better leader. Just some practical arrangements for today. You will note that you guys have all been muted by my colleague Flo. This is just to reduce some background noise, but we really want you to participate today. So please make use of the question and answers boxes at the bottom of your screen. You will just see, if you go down, you will see there's questions and answers. So throughout, you're welcome to just type in your questions there. We will leave about 15 to 20 minutes at the end of the session that Crispin will present, where he will spend some time answering your questions. We want to especially welcome today all our GLS 363 learners that's part of the development program. We're really glad that you could join us. And of course, also our success partners that are part of the program. Those of you that are tuning in for the first time, a very warm welcome to you too. I'm just going to spend 2 minutes to maybe just tell you what GLS 363 is about. I promise I won't take up too much of your time so that Crispin can have enough. I'm really looking forward to hear what he has to share with us. Crispin, if you can maybe just show that slide, that will be helpful. In normal circumstances, I would have sat there next to Crispin today, but now we have been locked in. So this is a new challenge. GLS 363 is an initiative that we are doing in partnership with the Global Leadership Network. Those of you who don't know who they are, they host an amazing 2-day summit every year around the world. And if we attend those 2 days summit, the question is, what are we doing the other 363 days of the year to improve our leadership skills? And that's where GLS 363 was born. So basically how it works is that you start by completing a free leadership assessment to identify the biggest development needs. And then you subscribe to the program where you, with the help of one of our success partners, work on improving your leadership one competency at a time. So in addition to our annual subscription, we have recently also launched an option where you can only sign up for one short course at a time. So you can have a look at our website if you want to know more. It's gls363.com. But we'll also share that with you in an email after this webinar. We do have a special surprise for everyone that's joining the webinar today, but I will tell you more about that at the end of the webinar. So please don't leave early. You're not going to want to miss this. So without any further delay, I want to introduce you today to Crispin Swart. He really is one of our special friends at GLS 363, but he also is one of our success partners that form part of the development program. Crispin is a senior manager at PwC, and he has spent many years doing leadership development and coaching. So I'm really excited to hear more about what you have to share with us, Crispin.
Thank you, Lida.
I'm not just going to hand straight over to you.
Cool. Thank you very much, and thank you to everybody that's dialed in. Lida, you mentioned that it's a first, and it is a first for me. People normally say to me, but you're an introvert and you probably enjoy being locked down, and actually it's not true. I miss the physical contact with people and the social connection with people. So I hope that you can hear me clearly. I hope that you are going to find the next few minutes that we are together worthwhile, valuable. And if there's one thing I just hope for this afternoon is that you would have 1 or 2 things that you can take away with you as leaders as we go through these really challenging times. For those of you who know me, you'll see my hair is really short. I heard when lockdown was coming, so I actually went for a decent haircut. And one of my children was saying to me the other day that, Dad, your hair is so short that if you're in the shower, you probably get brainwashed. So it's actually quite cold today, and I must say I wish I had a little beanie or something to warm myself up a little bit. I'm wanting to just kick off with a context setting, and then I want to just, if you're comfortable with it, Lida, 4 bubbles that I would like to just hook this conversation of how do we lead through and after a time of crisis. And actually, to a large extent, want to narrate my own experience and journey through it, and not share a whole lot of theory and theoretical concepts and models with you, but in a large extent be as authentic and as truthful about my own journey and as practical as I can, and share with you in particular the last couple of weeks and learnings that have stood out for me and things that I believe have been incredible to put in my toolbox, and which I hope to share with you and hope to have specific meaning for you as well. It all started with my one son asking me a really interesting question the other day, because I was so stuck in lockdown and trying to sort through things and make things happen now that we're not actually in the office and connecting and doing things and trying to just figure out stuff. And the question he asked me is, Dad, have you ever been through anything like this in your life before? And actually, I hadn't thought about that. And it's one of those really powerful questions that makes one just stop and think. And as I was reflecting on it, I realized that as a person and as a father and as a leader and in my family and in my career, I've been through a lot of stuff. Financial loss, job loss, loss of family and loved ones, career loss. We've been through illness, cancer, and retrenchments, and all of these things. And yet, to be truthful in answering the question, have I ever experienced anything like this before? I had to say, no, I haven't. And not in my lifetime has anything that I'm experiencing as a leader and as a person in my organization and in my family has anything prepared me for actually what I'm experiencing and going through at this point. And as I was reflecting on that, I had this deep sense of emptiness and almost this kind of a sadness in me, and I was really finding it difficult to put a name to the emotion that I was experiencing as I was reflecting on this question. And then, the world is an incredible thing, and things cross your path as and when you need them. And the next morning, I came across this incredible article of David Kessler in the Harvard Business Review, and he was talking about this concept of anticipatory grief. And then, incredibly enough, I was able to actually add or put a label to this emotion that I was feeling. And the fact that I was able to label it and understand what it is that I was feeling helped me really to work through it and understand that maybe what I'm experiencing is a sense of loss in so many areas. Loss of mobility, loss of freedom, loss of potentially growth in a career, loss of job opportunities, etc., etc., etc. And although there are moments as I was going through this journey of excitement about possible opportunities, I still had this overriding sense of maybe there's something out there that I'm not seeing, and maybe there's something out there that's coming my way, but I don't fully know what it is and I can't fully articulate it. And with this, the sense of sadness and anticipatory grief. And then this opportunity came to reflect on, so what does it mean for me as a leader? What does it mean for me as a leader in my organization? What does it mean for me as a person that leads in my team? What does it mean for me as a leader in my family? And above all, what does it mean for me as a leader of myself? And how do I navigate myself and other folk and other leaders in my team through this journey. And as I was exploring this question, there were kind of 4 themes that stood out for me, and 4 things that I want us to reflect on. So I want to just talk quickly around an understanding of what is a crisis, and if we talk about leading through a crisis and beyond that, what is a crisis? I'm going to spend a few minutes on leadership and what that really means for me and how I'm thinking about that at this point. I have a need to just stop and pause on the stages of grief and talk through that, because I found over the last couple of days a really value in just unpacking that and just making sense of that again. And then the team have asked me just to spend a few minutes on resilience, and I'm not going to go into all the theory of resilience. I just wanted to share with you some of my key learnings that I've been able to be exposed to and have started practicing for myself over the last 2 to 3 weeks, and knowing that what I'm practicing from a resilience point of view is probably going to be worthwhile for the rest of my life, and realizing that there is absolutely no way that when we lift the lockdown on the 17th of April that any of us will be going back to any sense of what we knew before. So how do I think about what that means for me as a leader and as a father and as a spouse and as a partner, and how do I think about that in a real practical way? So if I can start with the first one and just go through that and then take them one by one. And thanks to Google and John Maxwell, I found a lot of value and some really great empowerment and comfort in understanding when I talk about a crisis, and we all talk about being in a crisis, what is it that we are talking about? And if you Google it, you'll see that there are 3 key themes that come up. And the first is a time of intense, and I added the word unprecedented, difficulty or danger. And I think we can identify with that where we are at this stage in the world and in our own country. The second bullet was really good for me in the sense that it started opening up some options and opportunities. It's a time when a difficult or important decision must be made. And I thought, wow, that's really empowering, because what it does mean, it creates an opportunity for me to think through what those decisions are and to think through how I'm going to action them. And then the last part of the definition, which I really found incredible, and it's more comes from a medical perspective, it's a turning point of a disease when an important change takes place, indicating either recovery or death. And I was listening to the president this morning again, or in a mail, that he was talking about the decision to be taken about the extension of the lockdown or not. And if you weave those 3 little bullets together, there's a definition that sounds something like this. It's a crisis is a time of unprecedented difficulty or danger, which requires an important or difficult decision to be made that will influence or determine the outcome of the tipping point. And just reflecting on this, as I said earlier, was really just for me a wow moment, an aha moment that says, actually, in this time of crisis, there's opportunity for decisions. There's opportunity for me as a leader to step into something actually that I have control over. And it reminded me of a time when I was, as a young boy, was spearfishing off the point at Buffalo Bay in the Southern Cape with my spear gun and all. And at one stage found myself in a turbulent part of the coast where the waves were really crushing, and we were at that point going to potentially throw me onto the rocks. And I realized that this is a crisis, and in some way I'm actually in deep trouble here. And I'm thinking through it, and intuitively I actually took a decision at that point to do nothing. And gratefully, there was a side current that then swept me away into a gully, and I was able to get onto the rocks safely. And as I was reading this definition, I recall that moment where there was extreme danger and difficulty. And thank goodness I took the right decision at that point. If I'd taken the other decision, which I had as an option, and that was try to swim through the current and swim through the waves, I probably would have exhausted myself, and there would have been a disastrous outcome. And so this definition for me is really real in the sense that it opens up the fact that actually in this time as a leader, I have choice. There are decisions that I can make, and it's maybe true that I don't really know what those decisions are completely. And it may be true that I don't know what the right decision is that I need to make for my business or my team or my organization or my family or even for myself. But the wonderful thing is that it's okay to say, I don't really know what those decisions are, but I know that I am able to take them. And that brings me to a really important point, that as we reflect on the fact that in this situation, we are actually as leaders super empowered to take those decisions, it opens up the opportunity for us to realize that we actually have access to a host of really incredible people around us that could be part of this journey of helping us craft what those decisions are. And a dear friend of mine, Jeanette, who's on the call, actually this week took us through an exercise of actually crafting what that network of people are that are immediately around us, whether it's personally and or professionally. And that was a great exercise for me to realize that in my network, I have thought leaders I can go to. I have access to a thinking partner. I have access to a coach, to a mentor, to a spiritual counselor. And there are actually these people in my life that actually to now I haven't really thought about that much, but now realize that, wow, actually, they could be such a powerful part of me shaping and making the decisions that I need to make as part of this journey. And so I've actually started actioning that. I've actually started reaching out to people I haven't done before in a very long time. And I've built a ritual around connecting with a spiritual mentor, or connecting with a thinking partner, connecting with a mentor. And that's enabled me to take the kind of decisions I need to be taking at this stage, as it reflects on me personally, my family, my career, and the organization that I'm part of. And so the takeaway for me, and what I'd like to leave with you as part of this definition, is who are those people in your network that you can actually access at this point, whether it's a coach, as I said, a mentor, a thinking partner, a spiritual counselor, or wherever that may be. And how do we put that in place for you, or how do you put that in place for yourself so that you can actually structure that, energize that, engage in that, and make that a part of your ritual as you think through what it means to lead in this time and the kind of decisions that you need to be taking. The flip side of that coin is also not only within my network and who do I require and rely on to support me through this journey, but it's also whose network am I a part of? Who could I be that thinking partner to? Who could I be a spiritual counselor for? Who can I be a coach for? And who are those folk that I would want to make myself available to as a leader, to be part of their journey, their decisions that they need to take, and their own reality as they navigate themselves as leaders through this journey. So to sum up on this particular point, this is really powerful for me to kind of just understand that, wow, as a leader, a crisis is actually a time that I can take really important decisions about the future. And through those decisions, with the support of others, can actually determine the outcome of that turnaround and that tipping point. I'd like to move on, if I could, then to the next one, the next bubble, and that is just really a practical reflection that's been part of my journey the last couple of weeks, is really understanding what does it mean to be a leader, and now more than ever, what does it mean to be a leader in this particular phase that we find ourselves in, or stage that we find ourselves in. And I always come back to, for some or other reason, Kevin Cashman's definition of leadership. And again, I was so grateful that I had this in my toolbox, because just reflecting on this over the last 2 weeks, it's been powerful for me to just again reflect on it. And the definition reads that anyone who authentically influences to create value is leading. And the takeaways for me in this time where I find myself, and when I engage with leaders and folk in our client base and elsewhere, it's this realization that leadership is actually anyone. It's all over. It's not in a role, in a position, in a job title. And I've been really, really amazed and so proud of the team I work with to see over the last couple of weeks how young people that you would not normally expect have just taken up a leadership role, have just stepped into something and said, hey, I have an idea, I have a thought, I have a suggestion, and can't we do it this way? And how about that? And it's just been amazing to realize that actually I'm not alone. And as a leader, I can just understand that I don't have to fake it anymore. I don't have to pretend that I have all the answers. I don't have to pretend that I've got all my stuff together, because actually I don't. And there are people out there in my team and in my organization, and sometimes we call them authentic informal leaders, and we have other names for these people. And it's been great for me to start seeing who those folk are, identifying who they are, and in our team context, starting to work and connect with them. So those of you that are in leadership roles and have access to informal leaders in your teams and in your organizations, encourage you to start thinking about who they are. Think about how you can rope them into your journey and how you can make them part of your conversation. The next part of the definition that's really powerful for me is this concept of being authentic as a leader. And through authenticity, really being open and vulnerable and transparent about how we're experiencing what we're going through and how we're feeling about it for ourselves. And on that point, thank you, I've just got the note saying I've got 20 minutes left. What I did find really valuable also as part of it, just positioning myself in and being authentic, was thinking through again something that many of us are familiar with, and the stages of grief that we are in as we go through this particular journey also as leaders. And to be very honest and frank with you, and as I said in the beginning, I'm narrating my own story with you. These steps of anger and denial, bargaining and sadness and acceptance, they aren't sequential or linear. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. At one stage over the last couple of weeks, I've been experiencing all of them at the same time. There have been elements of me that's in denial, and the parts of me that are angry. And yesterday we got a really interesting mail in terms of decisions in our company around the future and business realities and how that impacts on people. And there was some sadness in that and some denial in that again. And so these emotions are there. And what's been really helpful for me is to just be able to understand them again, acknowledge them again, and realize that if I can feel it, to use David Kessler's words, if I can feel it, I can heal it. If I know what I'm feeling, then actually I can actually do something about it. So what I'm trying to just encourage you as leaders to be is, as you engage with your teams, as you engage with others, if you engage within your families, let's just be authentic and truthful about what it is that we are feeling. And it's okay to be this. It's okay to acknowledge that actually I'm sad, or actually I'm in acceptance and I can see an opportunity come through and I can actually see a future and a new world that's unfolding for me. And let's work with those really powerful emotions. The one thing that made incredible sense to me and that I was grateful that I got exposure to is when Kevin Kessler started talking about this, the fact that there's a sixth stage, and it's the concept of finding meaning. And I really gravitated to that. And so part of it, as I've been going through this whole journey over the last period and thinking about that, I've really been working hard, and it's been difficult and tough to do, but to try and find meaning in what it is that I'm that I'm experiencing, finding meaning in the emails that I'm reading, finding meaning in the emails, in the news articles that I'm reading, finding meaning in the conversations that have had with people. And since I've been trying to just think through that, it's been incredible to see how much meaning there can actually be even in the bad times and even in the difficult times. So connecting with leaders, there's meaning in that for me. Understanding where they are, there's meaning in that for me. Preparing for the session this afternoon has had incredible meaning for me, and it's really empowered me to think about my own world and my own reality. And I just want to tell you a really practical story about that, just to make it really practical. Is my mother was a maternity nurse in District 6, and so she ran around District 6 before I was born, and was a midwife. And she was part of telling us that story as we grew up as children, and her experiences of being a midwife in District 6. And she passed away in January, and there's still a sadness, and there's still a grief of the fact that she's gone. But the office actually wanted to collect money at some stage in donations for flowers, and we thought about that, and we thought, hang on, there's another opportunity to create something that's more meaningful. And so there's this little NGO in Ceres that works with young mothers who have had their babies for the first time. And they actually do some life skills with these young mothers. It's actually quite sad if you think about it. Some of these mothers leave the maternity ward and go back home with hardly a blanket for the new baby. And so the donations that we made for flowers, we actually channeled into this NGO that's able then to support these young mothers, as I said, give them life skills, and give them a little kit of blankets and diapers and bottles and these things that they need to take them home. And suddenly, the connection between my mother being the midwife and this NGO that's supporting young mothers, there was meaning in her passing. And so as I'm finding meaning in what I'm trying to do and trying to understand, I want to encourage you as leaders, as you go through your own personal journey, to really reflect on what is the meaning that you can get out of it, and what is the meaning that you can take out of this process. And once we are on that track of really understanding that, it is actually quite incredible. And the one thing that I'm really, really grateful for is just understanding this concept. And at the end of every day, no matter how bad that day has been, I can go back into my quiet little space as an introvert and reflect on the fact that there's been meaning in some of the conversations I've had. There's been meaning in some of the decisions I have made. I want to move on to the last bubble, and that's around resilience. And as I said earlier, I don't want to go into a whole theoretical piece about resilience, but maybe just to share with you the point at the bottom of the screen there, that often we think about resilience as the ability to bounce back. I don't think we'll have the benefit of going back to anything that we knew. And so I like to think of resilience almost as the ability to kind of bounce forward. And I've been thinking a lot about resilience, and as a firm, we have done an incredible amount of equipping our teams and our staff across the globe in helping them be more resilient in what it is that they are faced in their professions, in their careers, and with their clients. And I've tried to just sum it up in terms of my own learnings and own experience. So please don't criticize me if it isn't really theoretical and it doesn't fit any of the theoretical models out there. But as I've been thinking about crisis and what that looks like and what that means, and that I have choice, and as I've been thinking about leadership and that it's found all over, that I can tap into that, as I've been thinking about how do I show up as an authentic leader with everything that I'm experiencing and feeling, what are those things that at this stage, if I practiced more of, would actually help me be more resilient in everything that I'm doing. And not only just in my work and at the office and in my organization, but also in the communities that we work in, and trying to feed 1,000 homeless people twice a day, which really is emotional if you think about it. And then also in my own family and in my personal life. And 7 things have come across my way, and there's 7 things from a resilience perspective that I've been practicing and trying to practice the last couple of weeks. And I'm starting to see the benefits of that, and I just thought I'd leave them with you and share them with you. First is really unarguable. It's really getting back to clarity of my purpose, and my purpose as an individual, and my purpose as a father, my purpose as a leader, my purpose in my organization and in my life. And it's been important for me. And I actually every morning have now crafted a ritual where I get quiet for 10 minutes and I just reflect on my purpose, and I challenge myself to think through, in all the meetings I'm going to be having and in all the conversations I'm going to be having, how am I going to mirror that as I do what I do. Second one is growing my self-awareness, just being really aware of where I am and what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing. And it's okay to say, what are my joys and what am I excited about and what am I concerned about and what worries me, and just sharing that with the people that I love and who are close to me. The third resilience tool that I've been practicing that's really been amazingly powerful, and again, thanks to Jeanette for guiding us through this, is tapping into my network. I have found that to be incredibly powerful and enriching. And I've made that now a conscious decision that I'm not going to terminate that at the end of COVID. It's going to be part of how I'm going to continue doing what I do. Exercise and all the stress management techniques we're so familiar with. I, for the first time last night, did a Zumba class with my wife, and I was hopeless and was useless, but it was so much fun, and I'm going to try and do that every day as we go along. The fifth one was really understanding that I actually need to start making those important decisions. I cannot procrastinate any longer, and I've built accountability partners into that process that will help me be truthful to that. Practicing the power of rituals. I've started building in some rituals that I found really important. I connect with my kids via Zoom, and we do things that we would never have done. It's Easter on Friday, and as a family, we're going to do a Zoom connect on Thursday evening, and do that in a powerful way. Sorry, I'm just kind of choking up as I share that, because it's something we would never have done under normal circumstances. We would each have gone to our own denomination and gone to our own space. And here's an opportunity to start practicing a ritual that will actually be really powerful and bring us together. And then the last tool I just want to leave with you is a sense of, actually, it's okay just to be myself. Let's be kind with ourselves. Let's just give ourselves some slack. We don't have to pretend that we're okay all the time. We don't have to pretend that we have all the answers. And just me getting to a point of being acceptant of myself, my strengths, my weaknesses, what I can influence, what I can't, which decisions I can make and which I don't have power over, has actually freed me up and given me something really amazing in terms of just some inner strength to kind of navigate through this journey. And so I just, in conclusion on this part, just want to really just encourage you to just be yourself. Just be okay with who you are. Be okay with what you're feeling. Just understand that actually on this whole journey, really, you're not alone. And then to sum up, part of a ritual for me as I go through dark times is poetry. And one of the folk that I really, really enjoy and whose writings really inspires me is a guy called David White. I'm actually busy with a really good book of his at the moment. If you're interested, I can share that with you at some point. And David White has this poem, and I just want to share it with you as a second last thought. It's a poem that says, "This is not the age of information. This is not the age of information." Aren't we flooded at the moment? Fake news, everything and all the stuff that's flooding us at the moment. And this poem was kind of really true to where we are now, and saying, it's not about that. Forget the news and the radio and the blurred screen. This is the time of loaves and fishes. People are hungry, and one good word is bread for 1,000. And as a leader, there's an opportunity for me to step into the space. And as I said, we kind of trying to feed 1,000 homeless people twice a day. People are hungry. Your team, people are hungry for knowledge. People are hungry for security. People are hungry for some stability. People are hungry for answers. And as leaders, this is our opportunity to step into that space. And one good word could influence and determine the outcome. One kind word here and there is bread for 1,000. So this poem inspires me. It keeps me true to what I think is my purpose as well. And how, for me, it's about how I really connect and support people. And I don't mean people are hungry naturally, physically, like in they're hungry, but as I said, hungry for answers, hungry for security, hungry for some security and stability going forward. And then the last thought I'd like to leave with you as we wrap up is an incredible piece of work from the book of Erwin Ralph McManus, which is around connecting with your spirit, divine connection with your purpose and that. And he tells this beautiful story of Aidan as a young leader that needs to step into a new future. And he has this powerful conversation with Marvin, who's his mentor. And I've just taken this little piece out of this, and I'd like to leave this with you as a last thought, and just work with me through it, please, as we conclude. So Aidan says, "I'm afraid," he confessed, as Marvin stood with him in the place where his quest would begin. And as leaders, we're at a quest. We're at a new place now. As leaders, we're at the start of something really new and incredible that we can't fully get our minds around yet. But I said it earlier, I don't think we'll ever get back to what we understood and knew, nor will our clients, nor will the people we work with. So we're all kind of standing at this space where Aidan finds himself at this point. Of what? Marvin asked in his calming voice, and Aidan responds by saying, "For this journey, have I learned all I need to know?" Aidan queried. "Do I have it all?" And Marvin says to him, "Aidan, you know all you need to learn." And I was really comforted by the fact that actually everything that I've experienced in my life up to this point has brought me to this point and has equipped me for the next phase. I actually know what I need to learn. I know what that is, and so do you, and so do the people we work with. And then Aidan challenges and says, "But what should I take with me?" And just hear these powerful words where Marvin says to him, "Leave all you have and take all who you are." And so for me as a leader, as I think about this in my family and in my team, I can only take me into it. I can take myself into that space. There's a lot of stuff and rubbish and dump I need to leave behind. And I know what that is, but I can only take me into it. And then Aidan persists and says, "And the path, is it safe to travel?" And kind of the punchline where Marvin looks at him sternly for the first time and says to him, "It is not safe to remain. It is not the place, but the presence that upholds you. This is your only certainty. Go. Walk where no person has walked, yet you will find footprints." And as I think about myself as a leader, and as I think about the people I connect with, the leaders I connect with, the people that I've put myself out there to be thinking partners for, there's one truth in this last piece, and that is, as we walk into that future, we will find footprints. Someone has gone before us, and we can follow in their footsteps. But there's also a challenge for us as leaders as we think through this last part, and that is, as I walk into this future and follow the footsteps of he or she who goes before me, what are the footsteps that I'm leaving for those who choose to follow me? And am I leaving footsteps that will help people really find meaning in their lives, meaning in their roles, meaning in their organizations, meaning in what it is that they do in their jobs and in their careers? And so for me, as I think about my role as a leader through times of crisis, yes, it's about the business. Yes, it's about all those really complex technical things that I need to think through. But it's also about me as a leader and how I navigate through this journey and the footprints that I leave for those who will be following me. And I want to encourage you to step into that. I want to encourage you to really, really step into that fullness of your authenticity as a leader, what it is that you can actually leave there and the footprints that people would want to follow. And so to pull it all together in the last minute, if I had to say, so what? Make those tough decisions. As a leader, you can influence the tipping point. You're not alone. Identify and engage with those that are in your network. It's okay to acknowledge what scares you and excites you. It's okay to acknowledge where you are on that. It is possible to bounce forward, and if we master some of those resilience tools and others that may have worked for you over life in your lives up to now, let's get back to that. Reconnect with your purpose and your values. That reconnection for me is really, really important and powerful. And then to wrap up, as we embark on this journey and as we set those footsteps for those who will be following us, let's just be ourselves. Let's just be authentic. Let's be truthful. And let's just be ourselves. And that's just the last thought I'd like to leave with you. Leader, I'm not sure how we are on time. I think we're just about spot on where we need to be.
Crispin, you have done really well. You are spot on. I just want to thank you. Wow, I completely forgot to remind you of how many minutes you have left because I was so engaged. And thank you for being so authentic. It really meant a lot to me. Let's jump into some of these questions. I want to just encourage you guys. We have 2 questions at the moment lying here. You can find at the bottom of your screen, there's a little place that says question and answer. Post in there any of your questions or comments to Crispin. I'll be going through those. So thank you so much. The first question that we have, Crispin, is from Rob Kent. And he's asking a question around, will a crisis always take precedence over all the other business priorities? Or should there still be an element of business as usual? How do we find balance between those two?
That's a really good question, and I think part of our big challenge, and I may be sharing something that's confidential, so let's just respect that, please, is what we're working hard on as a business is balancing business as usual with what this new reality would look like, and it's a difficult thing to do because you have clients and you have staff and you have people who still in some sense are in this stage of denial and thinking everything will be as it was when we get back to post-lockdown and post-COVID. So it is important. I think what's important, and I tried to just land this message as I went through, is this crisis has been incredible for me, that it's surfaced a whole lot of learning that actually, to be honest, I knew and had forgotten. And what's really important for me now is not to lose that. Because if we think about a crisis and a definition of leadership, that should be what we do, how we lead in any circumstance. And I think sometimes a crisis is an incredible opportunity to just do the wake-up call and set the reset button and get us focused again. And we take so many things for granted that when it's no longer there, we realize, oh my goodness, I've actually lost something. And so this has been great for me just to think through. We're putting stuff in place as a team and in our business that I believe will be really good for us for the future, and not just for this period. And we're experimenting with new ways of working. We're experimenting with new ways of engaging with our clients and new ways of developing solutions for them, which I'm actually regret that we hadn't thought these things through long ago. And that we had to wait for a crisis to actually get us to that point. So, and that's what I was trying to say, that even in this, there's meaning, and we can take a lot of learning and meaning out of this.
Thanks, Crispin. It makes me think of, when I only had a little daughter, my first child, and I was pregnant with my son. I bumped into someone that already had 3 kids, and she said to me, you know what? It's going to be chaos in the first 2 weeks, absolute chaos. And then it's still going to be chaos, but you're just going to settle to this new normal. And I think that it's not really between taking this, this crisis as something separate. It's something that we need to integrate into this business as usual, and almost try to find ways to deal with this inside of, how do we make this part of our business as usual? It's not something that's separate. So,
correct.
Yeah, Rob, I hope that answers your question, but feel free to drop us a comment if you have a follow-up. I'm going to move on to Werner. Werner asked us a question, Crispin, for you as a leader within PwC. Have you found this COVID-19 has impacted on the organization directly? And secondly, what positive learnings are coming out of the lockdown that you feel could be used within the organization?
Thanks, Rob. Sorry, Werner, was it Werner?
Werner.
Yeah. It's had a significant impact, as it has, I think, on every single business and organization out there, even if it's small family businesses all the way through to large ones like ours. When it first emerged, and I think the important learnings for us, when it first emerged, and again, I'm sharing this in confidence with all of you, please. The very first thing our leaders did, and as a collective, we got our people together in different ways and in different formats, and again, reminded everybody and reinforced the important power of our purpose as an organization globally. And just to reflect on that, our purpose is to build trust in society and help solve important problems. And it was amazing then when the leadership connected around that with us all, and just again confirmed and concretized that purpose statement, and underpinning it the values, of which one of our core values is caring. The core challenge immediately to the business was, how do we then continue to build trust in our client base and help them solve what are really important problems for them at this stage? Yes, I know we're a revenue-driven organization, but if we want to really care, that's not that important at this stage. And one of the positive spin-offs of it's led to us having the most incredible, deep conversations with our clients about their needs and their challenges and where they are in their business at this point, that we would not have had if it had been BAU, business as usual. And that's been incredible. Yes, we have exactly the same business challenges as everybody else around cash flow and around the financials of the business and making these things work. And I know that if you just Google a bit, you'll see that across the globe, leadership within PwC have already started implementing for themselves as partners pay cuts and other measures to mitigate that. But it's been incredible how it's galvanized the organization around a common purpose, and I think for me that's been one of the most incredible takeaways out of this. So there've been impacts, yes, that could be seen as negative, but I'm telling you that if there's ever a moment that I've been proud to be part of an organization that is as focused on living its purpose as I can be, it is at this stage, with warts and all, and all the things that we know that aren't aren't going to make ends meet, and yes, budgets and targets and all these things, but there's a deeper meaning in what we're doing, and there's a deeper sense of purpose in what we're doing at the moment. And just as me, as the clients I serve, the quality and the depth of those conversations. I mean, the fact that you're Skyping and Skyping business, or hangouting or video calling with somebody in their home, and you can actually see what their study looks like, and the pictures on the wall and what their hobbies are, which you would never have had otherwise. It's just been, I mean, I had a conversation with a colleague the other day that had a 105-year-old parrot on her shoulder. And parrot's name is George. And it was incredible how George was part of this conversation and whistled at the right time and did something on her shoulder at the other time. But it's opened up these incredible opportunities to have that depth of engagement and conversation with our clients.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think what you're saying is so true with that, you know, just connecting back to the real purpose of your business.
Yeah.
And the values that we're standing in, because just because the situation is changing, that purpose is not changing, but the way
Correct.
that we live out that purpose in this new environment might be completely different. So we need a bit of a mind shift, but not away from our purpose and why we are here.
Exactly.
It's just about finding how to apply this in this new environment.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Thanks, Werner, for that question. The next question is by Sean. Sean's saying that authenticity is all good, but there are also times when those looking to you need to know that you are strong, and in a sense that you will fake it till you make it. Is that also okay?
That's a tough one, Sean. I've just learned that faking it doesn't work. People see through that, and I've just learned that people really actually appreciate it when you're authentic. People actually really just, and we've had those really powerful conversations in our leadership team, and it's okay for our Africa leader to say, guys, I need to take a really important decision, but I don't know what that is, and help me make that decision. And how do we communicate it to our organization? So I just really believe that it's me personally answering. So don't. I may not be correct, but for me, there isn't an alternative to actually being authentic. I cannot be anything else. And I spoke with the leader in our client base the other day. He's an executive director in a large organization. And actually, at one stage, we choked up, and we were tearful about the reality we are facing, and we were able to share that moment with each other. Yes, our staff do look at us, and it's part of this last part of the poem, or the story of Aiden. They're looking to us for guidance. They're looking to us for direction, and that talks to the decisions that we need to make, and the direction and the security and that we need to provide people. But in how we do that, I think it's just really critical that we're authentic all the way through that. And to be honest, Sean, who of us have all the answers at this stage? I don't think we do. And this has been one crisis. I don't think it's going to be another 10 years before the next one hits us. It's going to be much more frequent. And core to, I think, being a really influential leader is that point of authenticity. But that does require you to be brave. It does require you to be bold. It does require you to make those tough decisions. It does require you to do things that are unpopular. But that does not mean let's not be authentic as we do that.
Thanks, Crispin. We have 4 more questions and 6 more minutes. So let's see if we can get to all of them. There's someone anonymous. I don't know the name. They haven't entered it, but she's saying that she or he is in the recruitment business, and companies are currently not hiring, as we know. How do you adapt to such a big shift? It's difficult to see opportunity in certain businesses.
True, it is. So that's why I was reflecting back on on the point around those resilience tools and saying, okay, so as an individual, what's your personal purpose and where do you find yourself? And it may be that there are no opportunities at this stage, but if you think about it, in the new world and what that would look like, what opportunities would present itself there. And so, and again, I don't want to use this as an opportunity to punt anything that we are doing as PwC, but we've got a really fantastic online tool that's called Navigator, which actually is available free. It's there. We can make it available to our clients, where they can use that as a sense of understanding how will their business be different in the future, and what are the things that they need to put in place now to respond appropriately to that. So our traditional way of thinking about something like human resources management or human capital management is going to be different. And if we think about the new world of work and new skills for the future, they're going to be very, very different. So the opportunity there is, how do we rethink through what that means for us, and how do we reposition ourselves for that, and how do we reskill ourselves and in fact repurpose ourselves as individuals for that new world. I mean, if you just think about how recruitment has changed, Lida, you in that space as well, and talent management has changed significantly and will be changing. I have a son who's just graduated with a PhD last week Friday, who needs to find a job, and the market's dead in the field that he is in. He needs to recreate himself. He needs to repurpose himself for what employment would mean for him and what that would look like, because it's not a job for an organization anymore. So the opportunity this time provides for us is to rethink about that, and how do we repurpose ourselves for what will be different. And if you want to connect on what some of those tools and what that looks like, happy to do that afterwards.
Cool, thank you, Crispin. I'm just there's one more question from Kate. She's saying the crisis seemed to consume conversations with colleagues, and the atmosphere can turn negative very fast. Do you have any practical tips to keep the team positive and encouraged in this time?
Sure, that's a lovely question. So what we do, Kate, is and it's become a ritual, and it really works. So when we have our team meetings, and the fact that it's virtual now and people dialing from all over the place, if bandwidth allows it, we actually ask people to keep their cameras on so that we can see them. There's some form of a connection there, and I'm not just a blank screen and you can just hear my voice. The second thing we do is we start all these conversations with a question about just actually, how are you doing today? Let's just spend 15 minutes talking through how everybody is, where they are, the space they're in, what they're experiencing, and what they are feeling at that point. And then the second thing we do is we get somebody to nominate somebody in the team to share something that they have done that's connected back to our purpose and to one of our core values. And so we've kept the values and the purpose and how people are, we've kept it true through all our engagements. And it's just been really great that through that we've helped people actually just connect to, actually this conversation is about cash flow, or this conversation is about a challenge at a client. And one of our values is, let's reimagine the possible. And so what we try and do through all those conversations is, if we feel like we're stuck, guys, girls, let's just reimagine what's possible. And it's incredible how that opens up new thinking and new ways of just thinking, but maybe this is possible. And so where we were stuck the other day with a really critical piece of work at a client, one of the junior staff members, when we asked the question, okay, let's reimagine what's possible, came up with a most incredible, brilliant idea that's going to be a revenue generator for us going forward. So that's what we try and do really practically, Kate, to make sure that we just keep it alive. And yes, as a leader, when I do feel despondent, I make sure that at least I am honest about that. And then and if it means somebody else then leading that conversation at that point, then that happens as well. So we rotate, and we have different people doing parts of a meeting so that we give everybody a chance to do that.
Oh, thanks, Crispin. I'm definitely going to write that one down. That's a great tip. I just want to thank everyone for joining the webinar today. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for questions. There's a lot of comments. Thank you so much for those, Crispin. I'll send some of those
Thank
comments
you.
to you. So a lot of people just thanking you for your insights and for being authentic and just really encouraging us in this time.
Thank you very
really the
much.
same from us. As promised, we have a special surprise for you. We have developed a learner path called Leading in a Time of Crisis that is available to anyone that registers on the GLS 363 website until the end of May. It is a combination of resources from GLS and some other places that we found very valuable. So please go and register if you haven't already. If you are registered, you can just find it under the My Courses page. So we really encourage you to go and do that, and also reach out to people in your network or to us if you want to talk to some of our success partners. That will be wonderful. Crispin's one of them. We will share this recording with you, and as well as I see someone ask for the presentation. I'll check with Crispin if that's okay. I'm sure he's happy to share the presentation with you as well.
Did you have the one without the speaker notes?
Sure. Okay, no problem.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much again, Crispin, and I hope all of you have enjoyed it.
Thanks, everybody.
Feel free to reach out to us if there's anything that you would like to discuss. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks. And for those of you who celebrate Easter, may it be a very special moment with your loved ones.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Crispin. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.